Hello everybody. Today I would like to discuss about the importance of test cutting target. Why would I think that it is very important to have a realistic test cutting target is that the test cutting target actually shaped the sword design and the swordsmanship and how you train the swordsmanship in historical terms, and it will affect your performance in modern era as well. Now let's go back into the history to the prehistoric time where the ape-like human were starting to use tools against each other. Before they started to use tools like club or stone or wooden shaped spearhead against another ape-like human, they have that ape-like human presenting a threat to them first. So before the tools emerged in the history, the target emerged in history first. The need to use the tools emerged before the tools itself. Okay? So when there is target which presents a need to eliminate the target, you will start to look for ways to deal with the target. And there comes the tools, which came in many forms, bludgeoning or piercing form, and then cutting form. Okay, so it is always the target, the goal to neutralize the target, to eliminate the target, that motivates the development of the tools. Okay, and then what material present at that time that they can get access with will limit the method they can deal with the target. And as the time progresses along the history, better and better material as well as the forging technology allows longer and better shaped cutting blade to be made out of iron, like the Celtic swords, and then they can deal with the targets in better way that is more effective. So it will also shape how the tools were used, which means in terms of swords is how the swordsmanship formed around the during the target with the context of the tools in hand. So they will go from bludgeoning at first and then piercing. I think piercing is easy also. So they may go hands to hands along with bludgeoning and hitting. But the cutting comes the latest among them because it requires the most skillful among the three options in forming the edge, in using the edge to cut, which requires blade alignment. Piercing doesn't require that you just stab. Hitting doesn't require that you just hit. Both were very primitive compared to cutting. Okay, I'm not saying that it is not effective. Okay, I'm saying that in terms of difficulty, it is easier to go for hitting and piercing than cutting. Cutting requires more skill, both in forming the tools and in using the tools. So it's a more sophisticated or advanced in terms of skill to do the cutting. Then you see that if the target is different, the tools used to neutralize the target in cutting way would be different. And then the method to use the tools will also be different. So the target itself is a focal point of the whole ecology of both the tools and the method of using the tools. The target comes first. That's why I think a realistic cutting target is of the utmost importance in your progress in swords designing, as well as swordsmanship style forming, and also the practice of that swordsmanship. For example, if what you need to cut is only water bottles, then you don't need very sharp geometry. You don't need very fast sword. Many different things can do that. And as you progress along the difficulty of the targets toward more realistic, more requirement will be essential in the sword's form. Some swords may not perform as well when dealing with a fabric covered realistic target than the other design. So when you progress toward the more difficult spectrum of realistic targets, some designs will perform better than the other designs, and you will end up with a optimized tools for dealing with that kind of target. And then the swordsmanship will also change. If you are dealing with cutting easy targets all the time, you can get away with slopey techniques. Bad blade alignment will still go through me, and you do not need to go so deep in the rabbit hole for the high-speed zone or power generation. No such requirement, because anyone can do cutting on a very easy target. You can take it this way. And then when you are increasing the difficulty in the cutting target in a realistic way, it will require your swordsmanship to progress along with it, so that it can handle that kind of target with. For example, you will have to cut faster and with more power to go through the hardcore of the target, something like that, which is relatively unnecessary when you are going through a soft target. So it will form your swordsmanship style. And then, how does it affect how you practice the swordsmanship as well? Is that when you practice the swordsmanship, if you have no target in mind and your focus is only in the action itself, or they say the form itself, and your focus on your blade, then there is a high possibility that all your actions to be wrong, but you are not realizing that. Why, you may ask? Because that blade alignment, when you cut something, as I mentioned before, is the most difficult among hitting and piercing. When you cut something, you need blade alignment. And blade alignments, whether it is good or not, is not judged by the tool's user. It's judged by the target that is being cut. So when there is no target present when you are practicing, even for solo drill, you need to have an imaginary target. If there is no such thing, then the edge alignment is gonna be judged by yourself. When you judge blade alignment by yourself, it is not accurate. For example, let me show you. If the camera is my target, then the good blade alignment is like this. Okay? It looks good to the camera. And also looks good to me because my eyesight is connected to the camera, and the blade just go through the eyesight and the knife between the eyesight and the camera, so I can see what the camera see through both ends of that knife. However, if I cut at the camera but my eyesight is not on the camera, for example, my eyesight is to that but I cut at the camera this way, or this way, my eyesight is toward there, but I cut at the camera. The blade alignment is still good. Now, this is something different from the previous example. In the previous example, my eyesight is on the camera, and the knife connects between both ends, and the blade travels between this knife, right? So my eyesight can actually see what the camera see because we are both connected. But on the other example, my eyesight is actually on the side, not connected to the camera, right? And I still cut okay, still cut very good blade alignment. I cannot see it myself actually. I cannot see the blade alignment myself. But who tells whether the blade alignment is good? The camera. The target is the only ultimate judge of whether your blade alignment is good. You yourself, the sword user, is not the person to say whether the blade alignment is good or not. Just like I did the example where I can't see the blade alignment at all, but the camera still see the blade alignment, and the camera is the one that judge that blade alignment is good. Now, let's reverse the example. What if there is no camera? There is no target. There's only me and the sword, and I practice the form in a way I think it is good. See this example. Now, my focus is on the back of the blade. To see, I'm cut a straight line. I'm cutting a straight line, okay? To me, it looks good. Looks very good. Each cut is good, okay? But there is no target. There's just me cutting straight line that seems very good. There's no target. If the target was the camera or my previous cutting, doing this, they were all wrong. They were all wrong. To the camera, if this is the target, all my previous cutting like this, my solo practice of cutting straight line, did not hit the target at all. Or sometimes it hit the target, but it was drifting, okay? Drifting like this, the line is drifting like this. This kind of cut will not work. So you see, through this example, you will see that during your swordsmanship practice, the presence of the target is of the utmost importance. Without the target, you will have no telling of whether your blade alignment is good or not, because you are not the one who is going to be able to tell. The target is the one that is going to tell. An analogy to compare this with is shooting, okay? When firing a gun, firing and firearm without a target, there is no hit and no miss. You are just blindly waste firing, like Rambo in the movie. Randomly shooting, just burning your money in the ammo fire and having a good time at that. But there is no accuracy. There is no good shooting or not. There is just you crazily burning through your pocket. Like that, okay? So, in firearms training, the target is very important for you to tell whether you hit or not, and how you missed it as well. So, you hit or not is one thing. If you hit, that's good, but maybe not hitting where exactly the point you want to hit. So, how you missed it is also important for tuning your gun sight as well as the method of your sighting. How you take aim. So you see that in firearms world, the target is very, very important. The target is the one that tells you whether you are doing good or not. But in swordsmanship, in the market, you don't see this often. They are very focused on dancing, doing the form work without a target. Many call you in Japan distaste test cutting as well as thinking that is a violent, primitive, barbaric way in swordsmanship, because in Japan they used to cut on human target, a criminal or the prison from war. So they were looked down upon with justifiable reason. However, you still need a target to practice the skill so that it can hit where you want to hit, as well as hitting it in a good way that it actually has effect. That's why in the whole ecology of swordsmanship and practicing the swordsmanship, the presence of a realistic target is very, very important. On another example, if the target is extremely easy to cut, which is unrealistic, you can do things like this and still cut it. Then your swordsmanship will distort to this way. All attacks were like this, which doesn't work when you are facing a realistic opponent. So I think the setup of a realistic target is the beginning of the whole evolution circle of swordsmanship and the practice of swordsmanship. And this is often omitted by the modern scenario. The reason that my design of swords like Supreme Cutter and the German Battle Sword was so powerful and effective in cutting is that I actually cut very realistic targets all the time. And many sword designs did not perform well in such demanding tasks, and I have developed my own understanding through cutting this kind of very difficult but realistic target, that what kind of geometry works and what kind of edge works and what kind of balance and tip speed work. So I incorporate those factors into my design to make that work. This is one part of the thing. The other part of the thing is the formulation of the swordsmanship. You see, outside they are talking mainly about structured cuts like this, keeping a structure like this, maintaining a structure like this. And I'm often stressing high speed, so where the blade travels extremely fast like this with minimal motion, traveling extremely fast but with minimal motion. This is faster than this. This is slow. This is fast, but with minimal motion. Why? Why would I stress things like this? Is because the target difference. They were cutting softer targets most of the time, so they do not require the high speed that I need to do on my kind of target. And also, many of them were not sparring, were not sword fighting, uncooperative opponents. When you sword fight, you want stealth. Stealth, which means telegraph as little as possible, but still generate enough power to go through realistic targets. So I talk about minimal motion involved high speed sword like this. Very small motion, but high blade speed that can cut through a limb. So you see, the presence of the realistic target will give you a goal to achieve that goal through both the design of the swords and your swordsmanship. And then, as I demonstrated before, the presence of the target will also affect how you practice your swordsmanship. And just like shooting technique without a target, if you practice shooting without a target, it's like a joke. Okay, what are you shooting for? Are you going to hit or miss? There's no telling of that if you don't have a target for you to shoot. So for swordsmanship, I think it's the same. If there is no target, even an imaginary one, which can still be realistic if you imagine that to be a realistic size, realistic difficulties. It still works for your solo drill. You can't cut a realistic target with something like this, okay? So you won't practice this too much. It is only for weakening this opponent, but not for finishing. So you would develop your practice and the form of the swordsmanship accordingly with the target you imagine, which is very important, okay? For example, if you are someday going against a dragon, a big size, tough skin, muscular dragon, then your swordsmanship will change along with that. And the swords will also change to feel the need to cut a dragon. Okay? So that style may not work the best against human, but will work good against supersized monster. Okay? So the reason I make this video is to point out that the importance of the test cutting target is very often omitted in the current swordsmanship circle, and people are, you can say, compromised to use easier to obtain targets, easier to cut target than a actually realistic target. Now, by realistic, I don't mean anything like cutting live animals or thing. I advocate against hurting others in your practice. So synthetic, go synthetic and realistic. Do not try to harm other lives when you practice, because it is an unnecessary tragedy you are bringing upon other living things if you use living things for your practice. So I hope this video inspire you something. Okay, see ya.